So here's something that I see all the time when I'm working with nonprofit leaders. Many of the nonprofit leaders I work with, when they're looking at their donor giving history, they assume that the donor is not going to give much more than what they gave over the course of the last 5 years. That is not a good way to move forward with fundraising from individuals, especially those who have capacity. The danger of reading donor data like a price tag. That is our focus on this episode. Let's huddle up. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fun Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. This episode is an episode that it's like I hear this constantly from folks I work with, folks I run into, and I really want to talk about it here and dive in and have a conversation with you about something that could be costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars in philanthropic support. So let's talk about it. When you are looking at your individual donors and you're looking at their giving history and you've done wealth screening, and you know that these people have capacity, but they've only given you $50 a year, or they have been a recurring gift donor for maybe $10, $15 a month. And you're looking at that actual activity and you're looking at their net worth and you're asking yourself, well, they have all this money. Why aren't they giving it to us? There must be something going on. Why would I think that they would give us more if we asked them? What you have to understand is that transactional giving in no way equals a donor's capacity or commitment to your mission. Let me say that again. Transactional giving does not equal a donor's capacity or their commitment to your mission. How do you know this? The only way you're going to know this is by leaning in and beginning to build a relationship with them. You see, when you have individuals who have been giving to your organization consistently for 5 years or more, or they are recurring gift donors, but the gifts are small, and you look at their wealth screening information, you find out that they have a net worth of 7 million, $8 million, and you're asking yourself, well, why, why aren't they giving us more? I'm going to say this, and I hope none of you take offense to this. It is the most ridiculous question that you can ask. It really is. There is only one reason why that happens. It's because that those gifts that they made, whether it was giving to the annual fund through your website, one-time gift, making a recurring gift, they responded to an email, they responded to a direct mail, they responded to a social media post. All of those things were transactional. What was missing from all three of those and many more ways that drove them to give? You, a relationship with you, the leader. See, that's the next step that you must take. The objective here, when you do the wealth screening, you're looking at your donor data, and you're looking at your giving history. and you're looking at capacity, which is the net worth that you find out from wealth screening, what you have to be focused on is how do I get this donor who has capacity, right? Because there's three criteria that I often talk about: link, interest, and ability. What's the link to your mission? The link is they're already a donor. Interest, what are they interested in? Well, you don't really know that. You know that they're interested in your mission, but they don't know what specifically they're interested in, and you don't know why. You can make all the assumptions in the world, but you will not know why until you begin to develop that relationship with them, until you pick up the phone and call them and invite them for coffee, invite them to your organization for a tour, invite them to an event personally, not through email, not through a social media post, but picking up the phone, saying thank you for your your consistent giving. Would love to have you come visit. Because the objective here is to move them from being a transactional giver to becoming a relational donor who makes transformational gifts. And that only happens when you, the leader, step in and begin to develop a trusting relationship with them. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. There may be a handful of instances across the United States where someone came out of the woods and gave a 6 or 7 figure gift to an organization without the benefit of a relationship. Sometimes that happens in a bequest, right? They were just so pleased at at how they were treated by the organization that they left a lot of money to the organization. But that shouldn't be a surprise because usually someone was a catalyst in making sure that the relationship between the organization and that donor was good, and that person served as the conduit for that without even asking. But for the most part, if you're looking at your giving donor's giving history, don't let that be an indicator of what they're going to do. See, it's the relationship that unlocks the vision based giving that donors engage in because of you. You're the one who can tell the story about the mission. You're the one who can talk about some of the challenges that the organization is facing. You're the one that can talk about what you're planning to do over the next 5 years to have even stronger impact on the people that you serve. You're the one that can ask them, what is it about what you do that is important to them? And then you listen to that. And then you lean into that so that they can experience more of what it is that they value about what you do as an organization. So you get to open the door for them to learn so much more about what you do. Do you think then that they would still give $50 a year? Yeah, probably if you didn't ask them, and you might see a little bit more money if you didn't directly ask them for a gift and they still received the email, the direct mail message, the saw the social media post. But if you systematically build a relationship with them that ultimately leads to you making the case for support and then asking them to give and being specific when you ask and then close the deal, you are going to see $50 gifts, $100 gifts convert into 5,000, 10,000, 25,000, $100,000 a year gifts because you know the capacity is there. Now it's your job to match their passion for your mission with their ability to give. And that only happens when you lean into a relationship with them. You see, the real opportunity is hidden behind the numbers. Stop getting stuck on what they've done in the past, because what they did in the past had absolutely nothing to do with you as the leader, eh, to a degree, right? Perhaps you wrote the email. Perhaps you wrote the letter that went out. Perhaps you oversaw or wrote the social media post that drove them to give, but it was transactional. Came in the mail, they wrote a check, or they went to the website, they clicked, they gave. They got an email, they clicked, they gave. They saw the social media post, they clicked, they gave. But they're now in relationship with you, and they're learning more about the mission. They're learning more about you as a leader. They're learning more about how passionate you are about the mission, how passionate you are about the people being served by your organization. And then they build that trust in you as a leader, and they want to invest in that. All you have to do is ask them and be specific. And you will start to see your philanthropic support grow exponentially. You just have to do the work. Moving transactional givers to becoming relational donors so that they can make transformational gifts. I'm going to give you one example of how this played out in real life. I went to a amazing school in southern New Jersey. At the time, it was called Glassboro State College. It is now known as Rowan University and has been so since the early to mid 90s. It became Rowan University because a man by the name of Henry Rowan, whose company was an annual donor to the college to the tune of $1,500 a year. It was transactional. They responded to a mailing asking to support the college with a corporate gift, and they would give $1,500 roughly a year. But then finally, Henry Rowan got to visit with somebody from the college, and that person was able to learn about Henry Rowan and what was important to him. And one of the things Henry Rowan wanted to do, he wanted to see an engineering program at the college. Well, that discussion about the engineering program turned into $100 million gift to the college, the largest gift to a public institution at that time in 1992. Imagine if that relationship didn't evolve. Imagine if they just kept accepting the $1,500 annual gifts from Henry's company. There'd be no Rowan University, it would still be Glassboro State College. And that institution has not only transformed an entire institution, it has transformed an entire region. And I'm proud to be an alum. But this is a good example. If the college had thought that Henry Rowan wouldn't do more than $1,500 a year, imagine. Imagine all the students that have graduated from the institution since then, those who are there now. Nothing happens without you leaning in to build that relationship. So I encourage you, stop looking so hard at the data. Data is a starting point, it is not a story. Don't rely on that data, that giving history data to be the end of the story. This is the beginning of the story. And all you need to do is lean in and develop it. Develop the relationship. That's exactly where the term development came from. You're developing a relationship on behalf of the organization, the institution that you work for with the donor so that they will give and give in a significant way. So I encourage you, don't stop there, just start there. Make sure that you pick up the phone and invite them to meet with you. Coffee, lunch, whatever that may be. You see, in my experience, both as a supervisor and now a coach, when I hear this resistance or this reluctance or this sort of settling as it relates to, oh, they're not going to do much more than this. Why would they? They've only given us $50 a year, even though they're worth 7, 8, 9, $10 million. Why are they going to do more than that? They're going to do more than that because of you. But see, so many leaders are reluctant to move into that relationship because they somehow believe that that is not going to transpire that way. And that has to do with where you are in your own personal relationship with money. I talk about this often. It can be the biggest barrier to success in fundraising because we have a story about money that we're hanging on to. And some of that is buried deep within our subconscious. And I always say this is something that you need to tap into, become aware of, and understand that that is your story, not theirs. So, before you assume that a donor's giving history tells a whole story, I want you to remember this. Those numbers reflect transactions, not relationships. When you show up with curiosity and connection, you will see generosity that has been waiting for you all along. I hope this is helpful to you. This is the thing that keeps so many organizations from taking their fundraising to the next level. They do all the analysis, they have the wealth screening information, they feel like they are empowered, they're equipped with all the information, but there is something that keeps them from taking that step, that bold step that can take your organization into the stratosphere. So, as always, this fundraising thing that we do, it's not about the dollars. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. I hope this has been helpful to you. And as always, thank you for being here. We'll see you next time.